Grace and peace, all. Here we are again with another Foundational Friday session on the Enlightenment and Transformation channel. I am Yuya Assaan-ANU, bringing you this portion of information for this season and for this space in our life journey. As always, I am glad to have you here with me. Whenever you tune in, whether it be live now or whether it be through archive, I get so many archive listens and downloads that I have to, give appreciation and thanks to those who tune in that way. I understand that, probably the Friday schedule may not always work best for everyone, but through the glory and advances of technology, we're always able to kind of stay abreast just through being able to check out the archives. So I'm thankful for those who come in through that way as well. In this session, we're going to kind of continue a bit more from where we were. Last session, we spoke about the 7 seals, and we were dealing with the 7 seals is not just a moment of revelation or a moment of uncovering in the future, but a continual process of advancing through the various 7, we'll call them realms of perceptual reality in our lives, whether it be through the perception of our chakra wheels, which we use to sense and feel energy and to store energy, or whether it be through even the confines of what we consider to be musical notes, right? Because those serve as prisons, or they can free you. Music can free you, or it can entrap you, depending on how you approach it and look at it. If you only see that there are 7 notes to music, then that becomes a trap. But if you realize that there are notes within the notes, sometimes we call them halftones or semitones, but there's even notes in between the halftones and semitones, then you break free of those cages. Before we lay back into that, though, I would like to address a couple of pieces. I usually like to, as you know, get the house cleaning out of the way first. With the announcement of Phase 2 getting ready to release soon on our in our learning series, I've received a fair amount of emails, probably at least 1 per day, since I've started speaking on it. And people have questioned me as to their preparedness, as well as to the structure of Phase 2. And I have not responded to those emails, and I don't want you to think that I've brushed you off. But as I've expressed to you in previous shows, sometimes when I don't respond to let's just say 100% of the time, when I do not respond to your email, it's because you're asking me something that you shouldn't ask me. And I'd rather you think about what you're asking first. In order to maintain my stamina and to maintain my patience for all of you, I have to always be careful on how and where I direct my energy. And sometimes certain lines of questioning can lead me down roads that are really wasteful. So I've gotten a bunch of emails of people asking me, are they ready to move to step 2? Well, let's just start here. And I'll share this. Most of you who've asked me that question haven't even turned in any assignments from step 1. So now I'm supposed to write each and every one of you an email saying, well, you didn't turn in any assignments from step 1, so how would I even know if you're prepared to move on? Part of that is because you have this notion that I'm thinking about your progress every day. Unfortunately, and some of you will get to this point, you'll see when you start to begin to work with people. I have literally hundreds of people, who I work with on various levels. And actually, if we take it beyond the world of spirituality into the other type of work that I do, we could probably say thousands. So do I think about each one of you every day? No. Sometimes I have a thought and I'll send you a little message and say, hey, be mindful of this. Sometimes I may even have a dream about one of you and I send you a message in that regard. But you have to be self-managed. That's very important. And again, for that amount that you've entered into this learning community, your investment into it, in any circle that would not afford you a personal guru, okay, that would be very expensive if you had to sustain my lifestyle in order to be your personal guru. So I designed the program in a way so that you would be self-managed. I've done the other thing before. I used to have a temple that I used to run. And, it was pretty beautiful in many senses. But what I started to notice after a while was a strong sense of codependency that was happening amongst members, but more so towards me. It was still, everything was being deferred to me. No one really wanted to head up, at least functionally and competently, any components, So when I had an opportunity to restart the temple, because I eventually disbanded it, I didn't restart it. I created something different this time around. Okay. You have to be responsible for your own way and your own walk, but you got to put the work in. Some of you have turned in your assignments, and I have studied them, and I have notated them. They're with me, just so you know. For those of you who have turned in, they're in a folder, they're in a file, hard copy and digital. For those of you who haven't, you're pretty much off the radar. So I want you to kind of keep that in mind as you're asking me questions about phase 2. I don't even know if you've gotten through phase 1. All right. So that's a little bit of housekeeping before we get back into our learning. But it's an important piece, and I hope that everyone can take that, even those of you who are not registered students, and understand the importance and the value of being self-managed in your learning. It's so important. You cannot, as I always say, lay yourself on the altar of someone's teaching, or even disregard the work, time, and effort that they've put into establishing a curriculum and a structure for you to learn. You can't disregard that structure because you desire personal attention. Because as I've said, when we went into our show before the last, you become nothing but an energy drainer and a vampire. So what I do is, instead of allowing my energy to go in that direction and be depleted, I ignore it. All right. Now, that may sound mean, but the thing is too, this is about perception. One of the things that we have to work on is changing our perception of the guru or of the teacher. The perception is supposed to be that I'm sitting somewhere in a white robe with no shoes on, sniffing incense and, meditating. And that's not me. That's far from me. Though I do have a white robe that I wear, and though I am barefoot most of the time. But I'm a much different person than that caricature of what the guru is. So I want you to understand that, you're responsible for your journey, not me. I'm here and I've offered you a beautiful gift. You have these wonderful classes that you can come and take for a minimal amount of money. And on top of that, you even get live interaction with me periodically when you are prepared for it. And those of you who have been in our live sessions, you know what I'm speaking about. So, enjoy that because it may not be like that forever. You have a certain level of access right now that may not go on forever. Matter of fact, it will not go on forever. Okay? So with that, we're going to get right into our understanding of what we were speaking about, going deeper, because we got the knowledge of it last time. And now, actually, we're not even at understanding stage. Now we're going to go into our wisdom of it, our experiential, some things we want to get into. We were talking about the drum last time, and we were talking about the mechanics and the functionality and even the names of various drum components in the drum orchestra. Okay, as you can tell, I got my drum music in the background. All right, so this sets the tone for what I'm speaking about. But the drums are very hot. They're very Ogunish. So that's, maybe why I'm got a certain energy today. But anyway, who's our drummer? Who's our drummer in our Orisha pantheon? I hope everyone answered at the same time. Shango, right? We know it's Shango. Shango's the drummer. Now, there's some things I want to speak about in terms of Shango being the drummer and what that symbolically represents for us. Okay? One of the things, let's look at the symbology of Shango. One of the things, too, I want you to kind of get into the habit of doing is, whenever I speak about an entity that you're unfamiliar about, put a picture or a couple of pictures even of that entity around you. That's a great way to study. It's just by studying the symbolism of that entity, because for the most part, the things that you read on the internet or even in people's books, they're only interpretations of symbols. Sometimes somebody will go to a museum and they'll look at, let's say a Yoruba art exhibit, and from the artwork, they'll create a thesis around the culture and the representation and the ideology behind certain deities, archetypes, or what they may call gods. Well, why can't you do that? You can do that. So it's important to surround yourself with the symbology. One of the things that we know we have of Shango, right? We have thunderstorms, we call them Jakuta, right? And we also have his head. A lot of times we see the small Shango statue, and it looks like a double-headed axe coming out of the top of his head, right? Which, of course, it is a double-headed axe. And I've told you in many instances that, this represents the male phallus, the ability to create lightning, of course. But one of the things that it represents, and this is where we get into our drumming aspect, it represents the ability to be ambidextrous, right? Very important, ambidextrous. Okay, now we know that means being able to use your left and right side in equal fashion. Let me raise my hand here for a moment because I'm ambidextrous. All right, so I'm going to throw in a little plug for myself, as is my daughter, actually. We're both, she inherited that, and I guess we inherited from somewhere up the line. But we can use left and right equally. What does that mean? Well, that also represents the fact that it's coming out of his head. It represents the balance of yin and yang inside. Now, we know his colors being red and white. Red is the aggression, the male energy of Ogun. White is the coolness, the yin of Obatala, right? So Shango represents, being able to go from left to right brain easily and having them balance with even-handedness. Okay. Now, we have various representations of this, even if you look at like the Caduceus staff, with the, the medical symbol, which we know comes from Kemet or Egypt, and it has the dual snakes on them. It also represents those higher polarities of left and right, having that intuitive and artistic side, but also having that linear and logical side as well, and having them balanced. Now, this is a skill that all drummers have to have, just so you know. You got to be able to play strong with your left. You got to be able to play strong with your right. There's no way around that. You got to do it. And as you train and drum, that's what you're taught. You're taught to be able to play with both hands. A lot of times, even when you look at how a drummer holds their drum, you can tell which side they're stronger on. Like some drummers, I noticed they lean their drum to the left and lean their drum to the right. And that shows you something. But like a djembe drum should be centered. And djembe means unity. But like when you see djembe drummers, or djembe fola, as we call them, the djembe player puts the drum right in the center of his or her legs, okay? And that represents, again, that centeredness. But the djembe's power, the djembe fola's power, comes from the back. And we're going to get into that, what that means. But before we get deeper into the drum, or as we get deeper into the drum, there's something that I want you all to do, and I want you all to understand. One of the keys of drumming in music is also possessing the ability to sing, dance, and drum at the same time. It sounds complicated, right? But it's not really complicated. I mean, we see babies do it all the time, right? But you have to be able to do that. You know, there's a full circuit that's created when you're able to do that. Now, one of the things with dancing you'll find what's interesting is the gear or the clothes that a djembe follower will wear. You always see there's a certain type of pants that they wear. Here we call them hammer pants, but that's where that style came from. Where you see there's all this extra fabric in the groin or the genital area. And the reason that is not only for ease of movement, but for the ease of energy to flow in and out of the sacral chakra. Okay? Because again, what does Shango represent, the drummer? Shango represents sexuality. Okay? So much about drum is about the process of creation. Okay? Now, we can create illness or we can create sickness. One of the first things that you'll notice, as a drummer, for those of you who drum, and we do have some drummers who listen, matter of fact, shout out to Mark Morella. But we have, if you look sometimes when you're drumming and you see someone dancing, you can tell by the way they dance what kind of disharmony and discord that they have in their lives. Okay, that's a skill that a drummer has to have. And what happens is that as you're drumming, you begin to drum in a way where you can bring them back into alignment. Right? But now, music can also be fashioned in a way so that you not only create that discord and disharmony, but you further it and you bring it further into the abyss. Okay? So one of the things that you want to be able to do, again, drum, dance, sing. Now, what's the simple way? I know many of you at home don't own drums, but you know, when I was a younger person, I used to tear up a box of oatmeal. You know, we'd have the oatmeal. And like now they have the plastic lids, but back then they had cardboard lids. The whole box was cardboard, but you could get like a really good sound out of a box of oatmeal. And that used to be my drum. I mean, we had drums in the house, but you know, when you grow up in a drummer's house, you tend to hit on everything, you know, tables and, you know, car dashboards and your knees, you know, everything becomes a drum. So you have drums already in your house. So, you know, not owning a djembe or conga or whatever is not really an excuse. But an easy way to start, you can either get like something like that or just have a cowbell. It's real easy, you know, or even a bottle, a beer bottle or a juice bottle, a soda bottle, glass bottle, obviously, and a pen or a pencil. Right? And you could just bang on that. It gives you a tone like right there. And I want you to practice, you know, put on a song you like to jam to, you know, and practice playing along with it, dancing with it, and singing the chant, or at least the chorus from the song. Okay. Your ability to do this and to do it in a complex manner will also speak to the harmony that's inside of you, because you have to harmonize with a certain energy. Now, obviously, we would only hope that you would use a sound, a rhythm, and music that is actually healthy. But this is how, as a drummer or as someone who is representing or bringing forth that Shango energy, we're able to kind of also tell the spiritual energy and what a person is transmitting. Now, after a while, you'll be able to even see that in how a person walks and speaks. It's one of the reasons why when some of you ask me certain questions about classes or whatever, I answer you a certain way. Because even in your questioning, I can sense the disharmony that's inside of you. That's how I can usually often tell which ones of you have finished the course and which ones haven't. By the time you finish course 1, phase 1, you should and will be harmonized internally. If you go through it properly and do not rush through it, it will harmonize you internally with your internal components. Okay? So when that's still not present, I know you haven't gone through it. I know you haven't gone through it properly. Okay, so that's just a little cue. Now, last time when we spoke about the Conga. I didn't mention much about the djembe, but just to give you some information, you know, djembe, we know a lot of times people call them the African drum, but they were originally mainly in West Africa. We know them, the folks of Mali being the djembe masters. You know, in the Conga, we get mainly from Cuba and Brazil. Conga is kind of like it's a synthesis of various different types of drums, but it's a totally set of it's a different set of sensibilities that you have to use between djembe and conga. But it's very interesting when you study these drums, because what we're studying is music. Obviously, we're building up to a greater music study here, but I'm starting you here at our primal basics. You get a very good understanding of the African mindset as it comes to harmonizing, and the diasporic mindset as it comes to harmonizing, based on the way each instrument is played, the set of muscles that are used, and the energy that projects with it. Now, what's interesting with the conga, if you ever play with anyone who plays congas, or you play congas, you notice that the type of muscles that are developed are all upper body. Okay, you'll find that usually conga players have developed pectorals, they have developed biceps, developed triceps, because everything that they play with is up top. Okay, and it takes a lot of strength. It takes also a lot of wrist strength to play the conga, to play it properly. You know, so they usually have these really developed upper bodies. And the energy of the conga, it comes from up to down, and it's mainly like a cupped, your hands kind of stay cupped. It's like a cup style, right? But most importantly, energy comes from top to down. It pushes downwards through the bottom of the drum. Matter of fact, when I had my studio, a lot of times when we would mic congas up, I always like to put a bass drum mic in the bottom of the conga. I would put something near at the head to get the slaps, but a lot of the good stuff is down at the bottom. That's where you get all those nice round tones. And I'm just sending that out because I know I actually have a couple of also producers who listen to the show as well. So that's a technique. If you ever have to mic a conga, get yourself a nice bass drum mic, like a D112, and put that underneath it, or even a D12. You can get your hands on one of those. But anyway, we're getting off into studio talk. So conga energy happens from top going down to bottom. Now, djembe, interesting enough, is the exact opposite. The djembe is played with your hands mainly in an open position, and you usually play it standing. You know, again, it's in the center of your body, and the energy comes from the bottom up to the top. So whereas conga draws energy to itself and then sends it down to the earth, djembe pulls energy from the earth and sends it up to the sky. Okay, now, for those of you who may have known, I've spoken about this before in my classes. For those of you who've taken personal classes with me, male energy comes in from the top of the head and exits through the phallus. Female energy comes in through the earth, through the womb, and exits out through the top of the head. Okay, so what does that mean? The conga is a yang, or masculine energy or instrument, whereas the djembe is a yin, or feminine instrument. Things that come from the earth and work its way out, it gets sent out into the cosmos, is feminine. Things that come in and send out into the earth are masculine. With the energy of the conga, or the congalero, the person who plays the conga, they are creating. Okay, so conga music, even if you want to listen to Latin music, it is the energy and the music of creation. It is the energy and the music of creation, right? Whereas djembe is the energy and the music of healing. Djembe music heals you. Conga music creates a new reality. Use them both between creating and healing. Now, I'm going to explain to you something. When I say that the conga music is or the conga instrument, or that type of drum it creates, remember, we're still all in Shango's realm. So that means now Shango is also telling you Shango creates and heals. Again, red and white. Again, the double-headed axe on the top of his head when you look at his statues. And I implore you, please, while you're listening or afterwards, please go online and look up some, just search Shango statues or Jakuta statues. Okay, Jakuta is a stone thrower. That's the aspect of Shango. He throws the lightning stones, and he always throws them in pairs. That's our equilibrium that we're talking about here. equilibrium that comes through our music, through our harmonizing. Okay, so what we have here is we have the conga. We're going back to that, where it draws energy from within itself and from the cosmos and pushes it into the earth. Okay, now obviously we know this happens sexually. Okay, and that creates, but then we have the energy of the djembe fola, who pulls from the earth and sends it out into the atmosphere. Well, isn't this like giving birth to a baby? Okay, so now you see the cycle of energy. Now, isn't it so interesting that when we look at our reality from diasporic Africans, from continental Africans, now let's look at the djembe being an instrument coming from the continent, and the conga, which is really an instrument that came from the forest, a forest instrument where we have this wood. Now, in our voodoo tradition, we have grand bois, where grand bois is like the big architect, but that name grand bois means big wood. Okay, so there's even a phallic representation there. We're pushing it back into the earth. We're here in this soil. We're creating a new reality from what was previously birthed. But in order for us to get our healing, we have to go through a Sankofa process, because what we really don't even speak about a lot in the diaspora is the enormous amount of mental insanity that many of us are dealing with. So if you find yourself in a place where you know you need that spiritual healing, you need to get into your djembe music. See, these things are really, really simple. I always tell you that. It's really simple. It would be even best for you to get a djembe. Keep in mind, again, the djembe being a yin instrument, but it has a flow. Whereas congas, you use a lot of muscle constantly, pushing through that drum. But with djembe, you're using more flow. I mean, you use muscle, but it's mainly flow. And that flow is coming like through the underside of your arms, through your elbow, and it's coming right through your wrist. Now, what's interesting, again, like I always tell you, as far as that balance, that equilibrium, the djembe's energy comes from the back. It mainly comes from especially your lower back. That's where that djembe force comes from. Whereas that conga energy and that force mainly comes from your chest. When we're talking about equilibrium, we're talking about healing. There's various modalities that you can use. As I told you before in our last session, we were talking about the various components of the orchestration, and being the iya, the baba, and then the child, the owo. But so you have mother, child, and father in all of your orchestration, but there's tones that we're dealing with. So to listen to that jun or that low energy, can I also listen to Paul Robeson? Can I also listen to James Earl Jones? Well, you certainly can, of course, because these are representations of that lower bass frequency that we need, that aligns us with that maternal or mothering energy. In our conga orchestration, we have what's called the quinto. And the quinto is the higher pitched drum. Okay, and there's various forms where we can get that type of sound. If you really want to listen to like full orchestration, a good thing to listen to is big band music. In this country, we have really, and I want you to know that drumming has been going on in this country even before our Risha communities and our Bembes. It's always been here. There's always been drum. But one of the great innovators of drumming in the U.S. Was a man by the name of Baby Dodds. Okay, so I want you guys to look up Baby Dodds, okay, and check out some music from King Oliver and Louis Armstrong. He was actually the drummer for King Oliver and Louis Armstrong, and he was the one who really created that double bass technique, and you'll understand it once you look it up. But really playing the snare and the bass drum with sticks, playing them together. No one was really doing that. Okay, but that's a big deal, just so you know. All right, but in any event, we're going to go deeper. Next in our session, where we're going to be dealing with colors, numbers, and sounds, and how to comprise rituals along with that with our music. Okay, so until next time, that is our show. I'm Yuya Assaan-ANU. It's been a pleasure, and make sure you grab that cowbell, dance, and sing. Pay close attention to your ability to harmonize all of those components at the same time, or your inability. That will tell you what you need to work on, and you invoke Shango for that. You can get those invocations from my book, Grasping the Root of Divine Power. Make sure you sign up for classes at Sadulu House, and until next time, I'm Yuya Assaan-ANU. Peace.